Peter O'Toole is here. He is revered as few actors are today for an impressive body of work on stage and film. It was nearly 40 years ago that he first captivated film audiences with his portrayal of T.E. Lawrence.
Oh, thanks, Dryden. This is going to be fun.
Lawrence, only two kinds of creature get fun in the desert. Bedouins and gods, and you're neither. Take it from me. For ordinary men, it's a burning, fiery furnace.
No, Dryden. It's going to be fun.
Lawrence of Arabia is just one film in a lifetime of memorable portrayals for Peter O'Toole. He has been Hamlet and Shylock and Lord Jim and King Henry II, even Macbeth. In recent years, he has returned to the London... He knows why I say that. He's returned to London to the stage, winning a Laurence Olivier Award for the title role in Geoffrey Barnard is Unwell. On May 12th, he guest stars on CBS's The Education of Max Bickford. I'm pleased to have him back on this program. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, Charles.
Nice to see you. You're looking fine. You are. You're looking even healthier than the last time I saw you in London.
It's an amazing thing to me. Every time I meet somebody, they always say, "You look so much better than you did last time."
Well, that's better than to say...
I must have been looking on my last leg since I was born.
Well, yes.
You're looking so much better than you did the last time.
There were those who were worried about you at times, and for good reason.
No, really. I mean, it's a family thing. There's a kind of frailty to our appearance, which is it belies
the vitality.
Vitality, yeah, but above all, health.
It's in the genes. You have good health.
Absolutely, and we go on forever.
Your sister lives in London?
She does.
Yeah. Now, why are you doing this, Max? You're doing this Max Bickford. Is that simply because you want to be working in New York, or working with Richard Dreyfuss, or working on CBS, or some other more compelling reason?
They'll all do. Just watching that scene with Claude Rains.
Yes.
Claude was tiny.
Yes.
And I'm not.
No.
And that scene when we're walking down the corridor, because it was Panavision, oblong,
yeah.
If I walked upright, my head was out of shot. If Claude's was in. Yeah. And if they shot Claude's head, my head was out of shot.
So?
We couldn't dig a pit to put in, you've heard of it.
Right. Alan Ladd and others.
That's right. So I said, it's all right, I can do it. And I did this. Can I stand
Sure,
there?
of course you can. So you walk like that.
And Claude and I walked in these two shots. And my legs at the end of the chute.
Yeah.
Trying to get up the stairs of the hotel.
Yeah. It would be an interesting time because of the crisis in the Middle East. Interesting time to see this film about Lawrence, which is now out on DVD, I guess, in a much bigger, better form than it's ever been, as a lesson in history. Not totally accurate, I guess, but...
to a degree accurate, because Robert wasn't the Boat. Robert Boat, the writer, was an historian.
Right.
And he taught history before he became a screenwriter. So he'd done his homework, and at the same time, to make a kind of romantic fiction around those incidents, and particularly now, I'm thinking of the, it was T. Lawrence's cousin, Wingate, who instructed the Israeli army in how to behave themselves in 48.
His cousin came over from...
Wingate. Well, he'd been... Wingate had been... have you heard of the Chindits?
Yeah.
This, it was a kind of early commandos, early special forces, early SAS, early... What's your American version?
Well, SEALs, Green Berets...
Yeah.
Commandos.
Yeah. And Wingate did it in jungle tactics against the Japanese.
Yeah.
And learnt to live rough in the jungle, and he took these guerrilla tactics to
to inform the Israelis on whether it was who were fighting in 1948, the War of Independence.
Right. And T. Lawrence transformed war as we know it by these guerrilla tactics. I mean, yes, one sees me bumping up and down on those dreadful beasts, a camel, but his main weapon was his Rolls-Royce armoured cars.
Yeah.
And again, appear, violence, action, surprise, suddenness, frightfulness, and then gone.
Gone, yeah. Strike and move, strike and move. Yeah. How do you feel about Lawrence?
T. Lawrence?
Yes.
T.
Lawrence of Arabia, as he was known in the film.
Yeah. An extraordinary man. I mean, everything you could think of. The archaeologist, cartographer, explorer, writer.
7 Pillars of Wisdom.
What a beautiful book. I mean, he never had any faith in it, as you probably know. Well, he looked for reassurance all the time. It's a lousy book, he wrote. To turn his back on... I'll give you one T. Lawrence story which attracts me. His brother Arnold, an archaeologist and historian, told me that T. turned up to him one day and said he was looking for work after he came out of being Lawrence of Arabia. He was trying to just be T.E. Lawrence, Shaw, Ross, all the various pseudonyms. He turned up to Arnold's house and said, I've been offered a job in the city and I don't want to take it. Something in the city. The something in the city was to be the governor of the Bank of England. Because under that flowing robe, that sleeve, he had many cards, one of which was finance.
He knew finance.
Well, his dad was an administrator. He was an Irishman, as you probably know, T. Lawrence.
Right.
His dad, whose name was Chapman, was and had been since the time of Cromwell in the 16th century, in the 17th century, had been part of the Irish administration, a senior figure working under the Lord Lieutenant when Ireland was a colony. And his main job was finance. So he taught T. Lawrence all the tricks of high finance. And one of the things that enchanted and indeed swung things his way was he could go to Beirut, to northern Arabia, and do the banking. And he would translate the checks into gold. And that went down very well with the Bedouin. Incidentally, while all this is going on, these nightmares that are going on now in the world, and they are nightmares, I tremble, I fear.
Fear that it'll get worse and it'll go expand and explode and...
Well, it doesn't. Well, everyone must, surely.
Sure, they do.
Unremarked, I find, thus far, are the Bedouin. Now, everyone's being called an Arab. The Egyptians are being called Arabs. I remember the Arabs, the Bedouin, again. They are the ones who live, that's their country. The desert is their country. That's where they live. And there are no boundaries to a Bedouin. It's their home. And the Saudis will tell you that they depend on their Bedouin support. I watched King Hussein all those years ago. Yeah. His late, great majesty.
The Bedouin king, yeah.
The Bedouin king. Sitting with a Bedouin, and they'd say, Ya Allah, Ya I mean, easy, and he'd sit down and drink coffee with them. They were his power. That was his power base. The Saudis, their power base is the Bedouin.
Yeah. I know Gaddafi and know the King Hussein's son, who's the present king, King Abdullah II. But the interesting thing about, I've never been to Riyadh or Jeddah, but they tell me that the people, when you go there, if they like you and if there's, that what they want to do is take you to the desert and spend the night in the desert and do kind of falcon hunting and all these other things that they do, but to be in the desert. Gaddafi in Libya, his father was a Bedouin, goes into the desert to get away. You know, there is a thing about the Bedouin. There's something about the desert that somehow it's like men that you and I have read about, feel about the sea. Same thing.
My first real understanding of the desert, I was in the desert for 9 months. So
It was Tunisia? Where was it? It was
Arabia.
Arabia, yeah. You made
Arabia
the film.
Deserter, yeah. In the little piece between Jordan and Saudi Arabia.
Right.
We based ourselves, would you believe, for rest in Aqaba,
Yeah.
the home of prickly heat.
Prickly heat.
Yeah. It's so hot. Yeah. And then out into the desert. We used to fly out and land on mud flats. We had a Dakota and, I forget the other plane, an 8-seater. And we'd land on a mud flat, bring all the equipment on an aeroplane and shoot. Well, we were 400 miles away from the nearest water. Give you a hint of David Lean and what he wanted to do and what we did. And I was, most of the time I was sweating and trying to act in the desert. I mean, I find it difficult at the Theatre Royal. But I thought, hang on, this is interesting. And a Bedouin said to me, look, you're living you're living an illusion. Yeah. You think you're living in this electricity where there's water and tents and things. Go for a walk. So I went for a walk, and he said, don't look behind, just walk. Walk for 10 minutes. Take water with you. And I walked for 10 minutes, and then turned and looked, and of course...
You could see nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing, I know.
And I really felt for the first time desert.
Yeah.
Desert. The Sahara, the Arabic word, the nothing.
Yeah.
The nothingness. And one night, I mean, I really became, I could see the obsession, I could see the cleanliness, the peace, this amazing sky. And another thing, I think that the Umayyad dynasty recommended highly the early medieval desert in the night. I would walk away from where we had civilization, a lavatory and a generator, out into the night, and lie on the ground, and then look up. And above you is this entire bowl of stars, so clear, no pollution, nothing. The clarity. Also, curvature of the world's surface, 11 miles.
Yeah.
You have stars under your feet.
That's great. Are you happy, satisfied that you will first of all, most of all, be identified with that film?
Oh, very happy.
Because?
It's a beautiful film.
It was
2 years of my life. I was a young man, 27 when it began, 29 when it finished.
Your reputation, it changed your life, your reputation was made.
Completely.
Your talent had been demonstrated, everything.
All over the world, yeah. No, I have nothing but happiness about that.
Roll tape. Here's another scene from Lawrence of Arabia, directed by David Lean.
They won't be coming for money, not the best of them. They'll be coming for Damascus, which I'm going to give them.
That's all I want.
All you want is someone holding down the Turkish right. But I'm going to give them Damascus. We'll get there before you do. And when we've got it, we'll keep it.
You said to me as I watched that, Jack Hawkins, you missed more than anybody you can think of.
His humor, this brilliant humor.
Talk was his medium.
In conversation, Jack and I had more. I remember one. Can I tell you a little yarn?
Yes.
You
could tell me 1,000 yarns.
We were on our way to Hong Kong, the two of us, with the Irish actor Jackie McGowran. And we stopped in New Delhi, as it was called in those days, which is a dry city. Now, Jack and the two Jacks and I, we like a drop.
Yes.
And we had four, and we decided that what do we do about this dry state? And we had 14 hours between aeroplanes. So I said to Jack, come on, you're the male Britannia. Pop to the English embassy.
Yes.
They've got to have a glass of sherry.
Yes.
So we popped to the English, and Jack did it. Hello, how do you?
I'm Jack Hawkins.
Well, how do you? And Commander Hawkins.
Mate, could you do me a favor?
And he was, incidentally, he was not an entertainer. He was a war hero. He commanded a regiment in Burma. I mean, he was the real thing. So on you go, and yeah, we could have a glass of sherry. We met the under-attaché, and what do you do? How do you get round? How do you get round this, Jack? How do you get round this extraordinary business of being dry? Well, in India at that time, if you were an alcoholic, you could get a certificate
saying that you needed it as medicine.
And you could go to a place where they gave you an anonymous bottle in a brown paper bag. So Jack said, "Do you have a doctor handy?" So in came the embassy doctor, and he certified McGowan and Hawkins and O'Toole as alcoholics. And we went round the corner to this monopoly where we bought this dreadful paint thinner in the brown paper bag. And Jack was enchanted with his certificate. And we were sitting on a bench near the airport, having sipped away with this dreadful stuff, and waiting for that. And Jack was looking at with the specs on the end of his nose, his certificate, and he said, "It's a form of license, isn't it? Yeah. I suppose if they catch you sober twice, you get the blasted thing endorsed." Yes, I miss that humour. I miss Jack.
Omar Sharif was a gambler.
Is
a gambler.
It was like living with my father.
Yeah, tell me the story. I mean, you told me 1,000 stories about him, but just take one about about the passport. You remember the story about the passport?
Yeah, of course, unforgettable. We were in Beirut in the better days.
Yeah.
I'm avoiding talking about this because it's so distressing, and better and more able voices than mine. We went off to Beirut, which was we'd fly off every now and then away from the desert. And
you're making the movie, and this was where you take a break.
I beg your pardon. Yes, we were making the film, and when we had a few days off, we'd get our little private aeroplane to Beirut and go gambling. And in one night in Beirut, we lost 9 months' pay. In one night. And we finished up in the lavatory trying to sell our passports to get a stake to go back.
One more hand.
One more hand. And then a year later, we lost the next year's work in Casablanca. But it was 2 nights. Yeah.
The Lion in the Winter. I want to talk a little bit about that. Where do you rank that movie? High. Kate, you got Kate in it, or she got you in it?
Kate had just lost Spencer.
Yeah.
And Kate and I had known each other from the 50s. She was very kind to me when I was a young actor. She would come and see performances on stage. In fact, the first time I met her, oh dear, yes, I'll tell you. Why not?
Why not?
No, I won't.
No, come on. Don't do that to me.
Okay, it was after the show, and there were no lavatories in the theatre, and I was peeing in the sink. And the voice said, "Hello, my name is Kate Hepburn." Oh dear. And I had to withdraw and pretend I was washing my hands. Yeah. So that was my meeting with, how do you do? That was my meeting with Kate. Spencer had gone. This script came my way. Joe Levine produced it. It had been a play on Broadway. George Scott had done it out of New York. It was then called A Day in the Life of Henry II, which is really an accurate title. And I thought, well, there's only one person who could play Ellen, and that's Kate. Nobody else can. Nobody else. Oh dear, she's in mourning. I knew that. Incidentally, Kate, as you know, is alive.
I do know. Lives in Connecticut most of the time.
She does. She won't mind me telling this. I thought, well, yes, I'll try it. She was on Martha's Vineyard. She was the widow who couldn't mourn.
Right.
With no real hope of her doing anything. About 2 weeks later, the phone rang. Hello, pig. Calls me the pig. Hello, pig. Do it before I die. And that's how we started.
And hung up. Yeah, that's right. And so she came to do the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautifully written, beautifully directed, and excellently acted. Just think of the cast. We have a future James Bond, Timmy Dalton.
Right.
We have a future real big actor, Anthony Hopkins, playing our children.
Right.
And what
Dalton and Hopkins playing children. You.
And
Kate.
Yeah. And a lovely actor called Nigel Terry, another actor called John Castle. All of them were doing, you know, they're not big stars, but they're doing very well. They have distinguished careers.
Roll tape. Here it is.
From the cradle on, you cradled him. I never had a chance.
You never wanted one.
How do you know? You took him. Separation from your husband you could bear, but not your son.
Whatever I have done, you made me do.
You threw me out of bed for Richard.
Not until you threw me out for Rosamond.
It's not that simple.
You really loved her, Kate Hepburn.
Kate, huh?
Yeah. Did you tell me the story about her and John Wayne?
Yes.
What
I
was
don't
the
know if
story?
I told you.
But what's the story?
Well, I don't know if there is a story. I do know that Kate had never met John Wayne. And that she did this, what was the film? I can't remember.
Some Rooster or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. And she walked in as Kate would. Hello, my name is Kate. And he wasn't being in sync, but he was caught unawares. And she found him to be the most reliable, honest, attractive, funny, sweet man.
That's exactly what I heard. That she just was smitten with him.
Oh, she loved him. And she said he was like, oh, pig, he was like an oak tree. You should have seen him, man. He really was. You are a skeleton. You are just a skeleton boy. But he was a real man. He is an oak tree. Yeah. Skeletons and eccentrics. The place is filled with skeletons and eccentrics. You're a skeleton and an eccentric.
Do the best actors you know have what you have, the capacity to mimic?
Many do, because, well,
Most do.
Put it right. Most actors have a good ear. As musicians have a good ear. I've never talked about acting in my life because I don't know what it is. I have no idea. I just turn up and do it. I have no theories or anything. But at a certain level, all our learning is from childhood on is mimetic. And it seems to me that we actors, and you're born, you can't be made, you're born. You can, of course, polish and do all things, learn how to talk and move, and how to relax. But it's a kind of, something happens in the neurons, something spins around. We're on a different level of the mimetic art. We understand the mimetic art. We understand what we're all about, the way we've learned.
It's in the genes. You're born with it.
We're born with it, but it's also what we all have, which is we all mimic. That's how we learn.
That's how we learn. Right. And that's why you can learn more as a child, because the capacity to mimic is so fresh.
There's a kind of spark that pops from one neuron to another in an actor, and we can do it. We know.
Where do you put my favorite year?
Highly.
Because?
Oh, funny.
Funny.
Funny. And working with Mark Lindbaker was such fun for us. We
Roll tape. Here it is.
Who the hell is Niblick?
Niblick is my Sherpa guide from the Himalayas.
The Himalayas, the Himalayas! Look, there's the door. Come on, let's go give it a try. It's open!
That was great. Oh, that was good.
Oh, dear. I've not seen that for a long, 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 long time.
Mark Lynn-Baker.
Oh, well, I was very worried because I had that to do, amongst other things, and lots of physical comedy.
Yeah.
I love physical comedy, but it's very difficult. You really do have to be disciplined physically. And I enter Mark, and there's this young boy with a kind of cherubic face and sort of pear-shaped a bit, and I thought, hello.
Yeah.
Horse riding and falling off skyscrapers, and what are we going to do? As well as, well, within minutes I realised that verbally he was going to be excellent. We could play comedy together. And I was watching him. He was rehearsing a scene where he carried a tray, and he rehearsed it like a piece of choreography.
Yeah.
I was watching him pacing, 6 paces there, 7 there. I thought, this is remarkable. This is a kind of, this kind of meticulous Buster Keaton kind of approach to physical comedy. And I said, you're amazing, man. I said, what? You're so able. He said, oh, well, I was a fencing champion at Yale. Yeah. And the moment we did that scene, we just knew that we were going to have a lot of fun. I could rely on him, he could rely on me. We weren't going to throw each other off the top of the skyscraper. We were going to be all right.
You have no regrets about this wonderful life you have?
None at all, Charles.
Not one?
Not one.
Yeah.
Oh, there are many things which are regrettable, but no.
I mean, if you didn't have a great Macbeth, you don't care.
Oh, hang on.
No, I've seen the reviews. I read the reviews.
Hang on, I was there.
I've read the reviews,
I was there.
Yes,
I was there. I was on that stage.
Yes, I've read the reviews after you were on that stage.
But that's not the... Again, I consider it as a triumph, one of my own personal triumphs.
You were one, then.
What?
There was only one. They
No. It was the most... Hang on, let me tell you. It was the most...
This was no Ian McKellen Macbeth.
No, it was a... No. It was... would you believe... and rightly, any first night is an event and should be reported as an event.
Right.
Well, our event was great. I mean, it was so funny.
Yes.
Maybe even we were in hysterics. Brian Blessed, who was playing Banquo, this is on the first night, this chaotic first night, when it really was disaster. Absolutely. And we knew it. That was the point. On came Banquo, with blood streaming down him.
Yeah.
And as he walked on the stage and looked at me, we heard an ambulance arriving at the stage door. Well, I looked at his eyes, and we were both in hysterics. I mean, what could you do? It was disaster. However, that's the story of the first night. We then played it for many months, and we toured it all over England. We played it at the Vic, then we took it all over England. Yeah. And it is the most successful, financially successful...
Macbeth?
Shakespearean production of the 20th century.
Are you serious?
I am quite serious.
Because everybody wanted to see Peter O'Toole as Macbeth.
No, everyone wanted to see... it's a coup de fou. I mean,
coup de fou?
Yeah. Hang on, it's a coup de fou. Well, let's go and see how bad. And we, of course, listen, it's not a bad play.
Yeah.
And we weren't bad actors. We weren't a bad company.
No.
Nothing that couldn't be fixed.
Very few people have gotten raved for doing Macbeth.
Oh, it's a pig. You just do not know. I've read some. I've seen Henry Irving was howled off the stage. Yeah. I know Albert was wandering. Finney, my old mate, he was wandering around saying, "My imagination's gone." You think you can do it? Macready, in his diary, I cannot put down on the stage what I have in my mind. It's. You get a comeuppance. It is perhaps the most sublime of the tragedies. And it is difficult to crack. And you think you know it intellectually, you think you know it emotionally, you go on that stage, nothing. It takes a long, long time of playing in front of an audience to understand the play. Difficult. After about Dame Rebecca West came to see me at the Vic at the end. Yeah. By this time, talking of bad reviews, I got the finest reviews I've ever had in my life for Macbeth in places like Coventry.
Okay, so outside of London.
Sure.
Okay. Now, did Sir Laurence Olivier have anything to do with this?
No.
Nothing.
No, nothing.
Okay.
But Rebecca West came back on the last night in London, and she's been watching me since I was a kid, and she said, "What's all the fuss? You're speaking, it's the best I've heard you speaking blank verse for a long time." It was a good play.
Yeah.
Not a bad cast.
And you're proud of it?
Very much, because we fought. And, you know, this was derision. It wasn't just a bad notice. This was derision.
I know.
Jesus.
I know.
I mean, nothing exists except this, you know, this blood.
Derision is, yes.
Derision.
Olivier once hired you, though, didn't he?
Olivier and I?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we played, he directed me in Hamlet.
Right. But he hired you, and he
Hired?
Hired. He was it that he liked you as an actor, and he employed you?
Yeah. Well, he asked me to play Hamlet to
Right.
open the National Theatre.
That's what I thought. That's what I was
Yeah,
getting at.
yeah.
He came to you and said,
Yeah, I want you to play
I
Hamlet.
want you to play Hamlet.
Yeah.
Hamlet's easy compared to Macbeth.
Oh, piece of cake. Oh, it's many actors and many actresses have come unstuck on that one. I came unstuck publicly and bloodily.
I know.
But I have such love and affection for that cast. The witches, my Lady Macbeth. They just, I mean, they were crucified too. And public crucifixion is no fun. You can pretend it is, but it ain't.
Yeah.
They were crucified as well. And it was my job to see that everybody was okay and to get it right. Yes, it took many months, but we did get it right. And when we came back to London at the Vic, you saw a competent production. We spent the first 20 minutes of every show because the audience was like mice.
Yeah.
Waiting for something. And
Like mice waiting for what?
God knows they were silent. They were quiet and quivering.
Quiet as little mice, right?
Right, quiet as mice. And one had to imply in the tone of one's voice that, look, children, we're not as bad as you may have believed that we are. And if you hang around, you'll see that some of us is even fair, passing fair. You had to put that tone in your voice.
Yeah, right.
And by half-time, they were settled, and they... Oh, my nose bleeds as I think of it.
Of the things that you have done recently, Geoffrey Bernard is your favorite or not?
I think it's my favourite modern play.
Yeah.
I really do.
Because you found something of him in you, or something of you in him, or
Well, that's the point of acting, isn't it? That's the point of literature. There's something of all of us in that play. That's about mankind. Naked, the bare forked radish of man, using alcohol as a means, not as an end. Bare mankind. Geoffrey had Bernard had an amazing pen.
Yeah.
He wrote of the human predicament, consciousness.
he
Really.
was a Romanesque character.
Oh boy! But he could write,
Yeah.
and he was a great humorist. Yes, his output is modest. Nevertheless, it's quality stuff. You asked me earlier about the education of Max Bickford.
Right. I'm coming to that.
That's all right.
Oh, let me get to that in a minute. I want to just say,
Sure.
what else have you done before we get you back over here for what you're doing now? Geoffrey Bernard was the last thing. Have you done anything on stage since then?
No. I was asked to do a play at the Vic, the old Vic, which is my alma mater.
Right.
Everything began for me in 1953 there.
Right. With what?
Watching Richard Burton playing Hamlet, and thinking I'm going to join this company.
Is that right? You watched Burton and said,
I'm going to join this company.
That's-
I was a drama student,
Right.
but I thought, no, this is where I belong. This is where I belong, on this stage, doing this kind of material. Richard, Claire Bloom, Faye Compton, Michael Horden, Tim Hardy. I'm leaving people out, it's unfair.
Yeah.
Superb. And I watched Twelfth Night, I watched Hamlet, I watched The Tempest, and I thought, this is where I belong.
and what do you say to those who say, Richard Burton threw away his talent. He had it all. He did not use it as well as he could have. Because sometimes they say the same thing about you.
Do they? Curious.
Meaning that there was so much there. It's a compliment.
Yeah. I'm just wondering how these things are assessed. In Richard's case, I can see why, because of the whole business with
Elizabeth and all that, and the yachts and the parties.
But don't forget that both Richard and I we became friendly shortly after I saw him play Hamlet. He came to see me in a production of Lear, which I played Cornwall, and we chummed up. This is now about 1955, 56. We became very chummy indeed, and we watched our beloved theatre, our old Vic and our classical theatre and our Stratfords. We watched that going into the hands of the institutionalists. And it's run as a bureaucracy, and it's run by these power-mad little bloody amateurs, which I can't abide. So Richard and I, to be able to do anything at all, have had to do it independently. We couldn't go to the Vic, there was no company. There was some institution there, but no company. The whole director cult is just nothing to do with us. We know nothing about that. I watch now the incompetence is appalling. So Richard and I, to be able to do anything at all, had to mount our productions independently, away from what were our homes, the Vic and Stratford and the various repertories. So we had to do it in the commercial theatre, which is no bad thing, but it means flogging out 8 performances, 7 performances, whatever, a week. Not doing as one should do, 2 or 3 performances at most a week, and different plays, repertoire. That was his game. He would play Hamlet, he would play Caliban, he would play Belch. Well, you want to turn up to the theatre, because you imagine just going grind, 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 to fill some manager's pocket. We loved to work at Stratford and the Vic for nothing. We just wanted to play the big parts.
Just the love of the part.
Of course. And what made English acting famous was that English actors and English-speaking actors would go to London, to the Vic or to Stratford to measure themselves against the great parts. Kate came over and she played Shaw. She played Rosalind in As You Like It. The theatre now, there's no Pavarotti in the theatre. There's plenty in the opera, plenty in the ballet, but the theatre, what? Non-entities, mediocrities, at best, mediocrities.
Why is that?
Well, who's going to stand for the... I'm not going to stand for the Barnstormführer, as I call it. Barnstormführer. Then, have you seen the National Theatre?
Yeah.
It's a monster. It's monstrous. I mean, it's horrible. It looks horrible. It's vast. It's Herodian in scale. And it's unplayable. I mean, you go in there, no light, it's cement, horrible. And yet, it's an institution. People shuffle in, and they do their pieces, and they shuffle out. Who? Who the hell wants to go and see a bunch of mediocrity? Not I.
Why are there not a new generation of guys like you and women?
No one's going into that kind of theatre. No one is going to be bullied and bossed about by an amateur. The qualifications that I can see for being a theatre director are you can't act, you can't write, you can't juggle. What else can you do except talk? Gobshites. I love it. I went to see a production last night, and I was enjoying the acting. It was very good. But I had to leave at half-time because there was no light in the actor's eyes.
No light?
No. What are you looking at now?
You. In your eyes.
What am I looking at you?
My eyes.
So if you can't see my eyes and I can't see you, we can't communicate.
Exactly.
So how can some poor bastard on that stage be in the dark?
I got you.
Ah, it's disgraceful.
Max Bickford, why are you here, as I said in the beginning, to do this?
It's a little adventure, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. I have thoroughly enjoyed. In the Players' Club, I was given a night at the Players' Club a few months back. And I was with Eli Wallach, my old mate Eli, and a chap called David Black. And the television was on, and Eli said, I'm in this episode. It's a thing called The Education of Max Bickford.
Right.
I said, yeah. He said, well, he said, it's quality. It's quality. He said, I'm enjoying it.
It's the classroom that keeps me alive.
I'm bereft, Max.
You're the dean of faculty, Sidney. Just assign yourself a class or two.
It would be all wrong. After nearly 30 years at the joint, I'm no longer an individual. I'm a bloody institution. Sorry to waste your time. I shall pack and be on my way.
I got a phone call from an agent saying that would I do an episode? Well, nothing was written or anything. And I said, what? Send me the script. There was no script, but an idea for a character. So Joe Cacaci, who is the executive producer, and Richard Dreyfuss,
Star.
and what a burden he's taken on. But he's excellent. He's an old friend too, and a fine actor. And I got this phone call from Joe Cacaci. I need a script. We talked back and forth. He gave me a sort of kind of resume of what was going to happen. I've never done this in my life. I don't know what this is. I'm a text man. I live on a text. Someone else writes these gorgeous things, and I love saying them. We got on quite well, and I knew the synopsis of the piece, as it were. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. He said, you've got to have some faith. I said, well, I have very little of that. Tell me, I'll tell you what you do. Pop down, please, a couple of pages of dialogue and a strict synopsis of what's going to happen. I walked into my office, which I don't often go in, and there's a fax machine which I've never used or ever seen being used. And coming off this fax machine was this huge white tongue sparking lots and lots of words. 23 pages of script. He'd done it overnight. I read it and it was enchanting. Here I am.
Is your son here in the United States?
He is. He's a student here.
Where?
NYU. Look, at the age of 50, I had a son born to me. That's a blessing.
Mm.
The most important thing I could think of to do in terms of having a son was that he'd need someone to bowl to him at cricket. So I went to a cricket net. Well, you bowl that way.
Yeah.
But in cricket, you bowl that way.
Right.
You keep your arms straight, but over that way.
Right.
And anybody can bat, but you need someone to throw the ball at you.
And that's you.
That's me. So I went down, and I found myself suddenly again at the age of 50 playing cricket, which is a game I adore. And I've been playing cricket until I was about 65. Then I turned it up, or turned it in rather.
How do you spend your time today?
Me reading and watching sport, going to the theatre, just
taking an occasional role.
Yeah, and I write.
Another volume of...
I've got 2 out. I've got another one to do.
Are you going to finish it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, do you work at it every day?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I have a discipline, yeah. Well, you can't do it, otherwise it's impossible. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure some people can, but I can't. I've got to be up. I do some curious things. I love writing.
And do it well. I mean, your books have been reviewed well.
Very well. I've been the publishing world has treated me with enormous kindness, and I'm very pleased. And the readership is lovely. I enjoy getting my letters. It's the applause. It's very nice. But I really do love it now, and the parallels with acting are astonishing.
How so?
It's a kind of performing art. How so? Do you know the yarn of Dumas? I don't know if it was Père or Fils. Dumas, Three Musketeers.
Yes, tell me.
And his chum arrived one morning, and there was Dumas wandering down the stairs with his wig overhead and snuff and tears, above all. Tears, 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 and sobbing and sobbing. And he said, "You all right?" He said, No, I've just killed Porthos. Right?
Yeah.
Well, I had to kill somebody in a book. I had to write of a suicide. And I did my best. And the moment I put the last word down, boom, killed herself, full stop. I just burst into tears. I was back 40-odd years, more, 50 years practically. Yeah. So, and also, any good actor will tell you, and if you look at history, they will tell you, it will tell you that all good actors and actresses, the common denominator of all, from Keane to Peggy Woofington to Kate to Alec, to me, to Tony Hopkins, to whosoever, unobserved, uninhibited, private study for months, if necessary. So every nuance, every phrase is considered and thought out well in advance.
You couldn't say anything more important than that.
No.
Thank you.
Not at all, Charles.
It's a pleasure. It really is. Thank you for coming.
Not at all.
Peter O'Toole, one of my favorite people. He will be the season finale of The Education of Max Bickford. It airs on Sunday, May 12th at 8 p.m. on CBS. This table is honored to have him. Thank you for joining us for the hour. See you next time.
Someone once said, the more praise a man is willing to take, the less he probably deserves. Whoever said that must have been insane. No, that's not what. Whoever said that must have had the ever-reluctant and as such deeply deserving recipient of tonight's honorary Oscar award in mind. Peter O'Toole was nominated for the Oscar. He was nominated for the Oscar for Best Actor a lucky 7 times, and like many of our best, was overlooked on every occasion. He was overlooked but far from unnoticed. Bursting on the screen, on a screen that could barely contain him, he played the title role in David Lean's magnificent Lawrence of Arabia with fierce grace and extraordinary ease. Noel Coward remarked on this accomplishment, "If you had been any prettier, it would have been Florence of Arabia." Classically trained, he returned to the stage again and again. He played 50 roles in 4 years at the Old Vic alone, and he was one of the great Hamlets. He was also well cast as kings in a dazzling array of film performances. After playing Henry II in Becket opposite his friend Richard Burton, he reprised the role opposite Katharine Hepburn in The Lion in Winter. Even real kings don't get a second chance like that. He's had a strong run of gentlemen with titles and delusional dreamers in such films as Man of La Mancha and Caligula, Man Friday and Lord Jim, Svengali and The Last Emperor. In The Ruling Class, he plays a man who thinks he's God. In The Stuntman, he plays a man who doesn't think he's God, he knows he's God. In other words, a film director. And in the hilarious and touching My Favorite Year, he sums it all up in a rollicking performance as a great swashbuckling movie actor who's terrified of acting. He even gets to deliver the actor's mantra, "Dying is easy, comedy is hard." And with a golden voice that lifts, gilds, and animates ordinary words, and the light in his eye as if he'd swallowed the pale blue moon, Peter O'Toole's gift has beguiled us for 40 years.
I've never talked about acting in my life, but any good actor will tell you that the common denominator is private study for months, if necessary. So every nuance, every phrase is considered and thought out well in advance.
The nominees for the best performance by an actor are Peter O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole.
I'm an ordinary man.
You're the most extraordinary man I ever met.
Help me, Thomas. I'm frightened. I'm the king! I'll never let you loose. You led too many civil wars against me.
And I damn near won the last one.
It won't really be goodbye.
Are you ready for them?
Are they ready for me, madam? We must have this shot. I therefore order that no camera shall jam and no cloud pass before the sun. I'm not an actor, I'm a movie star. Come on, then! I come in a world of iron to make a world of gold. Who are you to know what can be done? Whatever I ask them to do can be done, that's all. They know that if you don't. Do you think I'm just anybody, Ali? Are you satisfied now?
Ladies and gentlemen, Peter O'Toole.
Meryl Streep, members of the Academy, distinguished guests, viewers, ladies and gentlemen. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride, my foot. I have my very own Oscar now to be with me till death us do part. I would wish the Academy to know that I am as delighted as I am honored. And I am honored. The magic of the movies enraptured me when I was a child. As I totter into antiquity, movie magic enraptures me still. Having already bagged this baby, as it were, and so spared uncertainties prior to the opening of an envelope, I'm able to think. I think of our colleagues, our old friends, now gone, who played their parts in this ceremony. I think of the sumptuous talents alive and well and with us now. I think of the astonishing young, the gifted and able young men and women who I meet practically every time I go to work, and from whom I grab energy in handfuls. I think of the United States and of the loves and friendships I've known here for more than half a century, and of how much the nation has given to me, both personally, privately, and professionally. I'm deeply thankful. And now, at this last, you've given me this delightful shock. You're very good. Good night, and God bless you.